Hi guys, I said this in one of my last videos regarding anxiety and knowing that responding to anxiety isn't enough for recovery. What I mean by this, guys, I made a video on this before, but I don't think I explained it very well. This is how I'm going to explain it. So, responding to anxiety, of course, is the framework, the groundwork of recovering from anxiety disorder. Ultimately, guys, what I want to say is that you've got to, after you've experienced anxiety, after you may have experienced a setback in your anxiety recovery journey, you need to pay attention and listen to the way that you respond to yourself. How do you treat yourself when you have, let's say obviously an episode of anxiety, of sort of like a taste, once again, of your anxiety disorder, and it could be triggered in many ways. Sometimes it could be triggered by nothing. Of course, sometimes like I'll get like hyperly anxious and stuff, not only obviously my body, but my mind will start thinking things. And of course the response is always the same, guys, towards anxiety and every single sensation, and it is simply to allow it. You allow it to be there, and then it goes away on its own. You don't have to do anything to make it go away. Of course, lifestyle habits is important. I think that's very, very good. But ultimately, it is a means to an end. It's not, people say, oh, have you tried breathing techniques, coping strategies, things like that. Ultimately, I think breathing techniques, cold baths, I used to do all of that to try and alleviate my anxiety. And yet, it never worked. It might have worked temporarily, but it's more so you are learning to become comfortable in your anxious discomfort. And this is such an important fundamental principle, because there will always be more anxiety. This is the nature of life. And the more that we accept this, the more that we embrace it, the better our lives will be because of it. But ultimately, what I want to talk about, guys, is responding to anxiety to recover isn't enough. We need to respond to how we obviously respond to anxiety, but we need to pay attention and look at the way that we're responding to ourselves when we have anxiety. For some reason, there's this underlying shame that we sort of carry when we, obviously, as I said, have a setback with anxiety. And it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't. This is something I can't control. This is the anxiety disorder sort of mechanics of it, and this is the way through the out of it. And this is really what we are on about, guys, when we say that we need to pay attention and listen to the way we speak to ourselves. And I think this is sort of maybe the groundworks of self-esteem, because that's important as well. I mean, we need to change the way we look at ourselves. Where I found this out, guys, is that obviously my story is I suffered from severe anxiety since I was 9. I had my first panic attack when I was 9, and for the longest time I didn't know how to respond to anxiety, and I didn't know that was the way out of it. I didn't ultimately know, like, oh, okay, this is the way that this is what you need to do. You need to respond to it with acceptance, with to embrace it, and then it goes away on its own. I had no clue, absolutely no clue. And I recommend, guys, that you check out a dude on YouTube called Sean Kassam. He's a fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. I mean, of course, I thank God every single day that I'm well again and things like that. But there's no but to that. There's no exception. I thank God for this man, Sean Kassam, because he's actually educated on the subject. I think it comes to a point where, well, as we've said, at countless times, where coping strategies are a means to an end, and they are simply a means to an end, because there will always be more stress hormone, there will always be more anxiety, and if you can. Sean Kassam says in this way that we have a maladaptive response to anxiety and stress, and if we reinterpret our sort of interpretation to stress and anxiety and negative emotions, then we can move out of them quicker. It's one of those things. There's a good analogy that he used towards anxious sensations, that, for example, one person, if we're talking about like the weather, like right now, it's quite grim, it's quite a dark day. If I was to come onto this video and just complain, oh, I hate the weather, I hate this, I hate that, why couldn't it be sunny? I hate it when it's cold. But then the next person says, so what? I don't care. And that's exactly the response that you want towards your anxiety. Instead of looking at it as a way of well, you know, this sucks. And yeah, it does suck. It does. It is an awful experience. It's a not only just an uncomfortable feeling, but it's unsettling. It's almost this underlying sense of feeling like you're in danger when truly there's nothing going on. Here's another metaphor I want to talk about from Sean Carson when he says, I've watched so many of his videos, talks about how we need to, once we respond to anxiety differently and we put the response in place, our anxiety symptoms might still be there, and exactly the response is still the same. So what? Who cares? And the reason why they may still be there is because, well, if you think about a light bulb, right? A light bulb that has been on for a long time, and then you switch it off. Well, if you touch that light bulb in that moment, you know, still just after you turned it off, it's still going to be hot because you've just, well, obviously you just turned it off, and so you need to let that cool down. And it is exactly the same in anxiety. Once we learn how to respond to it, and we let our nervous system cool down, then the symptoms go away on their own. So I like to sort of think of like the nervous system sort of like that, because, well, ultimately it is a system there to keep us safe, you know, to control our our nerves, and the nervous system. But when it's sensitized for a prolonged period of time, it's a terrible experience. I mean, it's absolutely awful. And then you have all these mental and then psychological symptoms and then physical symptoms. It's bewildering, guys. But once you know how to respond to it, it all changes, guys. So, guys, thank you very much for this for the support on the channel recently. Hope you guys are liking the car videos. So yeah, cheers, guys. See you guys in the next one.